4 people connected to Ellen DeGeneres were gone under strange circumstances. 4. In less than 1 year. And the internet just found out Ellen's name is in the Epstein files. So yeah, people are done calling this a coincidence. Look, this story is not new. Heche passed away almost 4 years ago. For a long time, the internet moved on, the news moved on, and the case went cold. But then, something happened in January 2026 that changed everything. The U.S. Department of Justice released the Jeffrey Epstein investigation files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We are talking about 3.5 million pages, over 2,000 videos, 180,000 images. All of it is now public.
Bizarre and disturbing claim is gaining traction online, suggesting that the Epstein files expose Ellen DeGeneres as Hollywood's, quote, most prolific cannibal. The claim began circulating on X.
And when people started going through those files, Ellen DeGeneres' name showed up. By February 18, 2026, a post went viral claiming the Epstein files connected Ellen directly to Heche's death. Millions of views, trending on X, TikTok, everywhere. The story that everyone thought was over, it came back, louder than ever. As for the context, if you don't know, Heche was a well-known Hollywood actress. She was not some small name. She had been in major films, she had a long career, and at one point, she was right at the center of Hollywood's most talked-about relationship. From 1997 to 2000, Anne dated Ellen DeGeneres. It was one of the first openly same-sex celebrity relationships Hollywood had ever seen. It got intense public attention. It put both of them on the covers of magazines everywhere.
And with the death of Anne Heche, fans are rushing to find copies of her autobiography titled Call Me Crazy. Heche died last week at the age of 53 after crashing her car into a Mar Vista home August 5th.
The relationship ended. But what Anne knew, what she had seen from being inside Ellen's world at the peak of Ellen's power, that stayed with her. By 2021, Anne was no longer staying quiet. She went on her own podcast and came out with some serious accusations. She said Ellen had manipulated her for years, damaged her career, even conspired with Anne's own mother to have her institutionalized. That is not a rumor. That is not a tabloid story. That is Anne Heche, in her own words, saying these things publicly on her own show. And in 2023, after Anne had already passed away, her memoir, Call Me Anne, was published. Even more detail about DeGeneres. Even more of what Anne had been sitting on for decades. Let's get into it. So it's August 5th, 2022. Let's walk through this day hour by hour, because the details are what matter here. At around 10 in the morning, Anne Heche walked into a hair store called Glass Hair. She bought a bright red wig. The store owner later told reporters she was kind, polite, and totally sober, not slurring her words, eyes bright and clear. Just a woman buying a wig, normal. And look, this matters, because what happens next makes absolutely no sense if Anne was sober and fine at 10 a.m. At around 10:30, Anne was spotted at a storage garage nearby. A man came out and started yelling at her, telling her to get out of the car. She did not listen. She floored it and sped off, nearly running him over. That is a 30-minute window between completely sober and polite to erratic driver almost hitting someone. Nobody has ever explained what happened in those 30 minutes. And then, minutes later, Anne's Mini Cooper was caught on camera doing somewhere between 70 and 90 miles per hour down a small residential street.
You know, we can confirm that the actress is now in stable condition, but she is potentially facing a slew of charges. And we're talking about speeding, DUI, and hit and run. That's all part of the investigation, according to the LAPD, and they're waiting to speak to the actress. But one thing we can say for certain, a lot of damage was done out here. Just take a look. This is the house right here behind us here in Mar Vista. This is on Walgrove Avenue. 53-year-old actress was taken away in an ambulance. She was taken to a local hospital. She suffered significant injuries and some serious burns, according to the fire department.
Let that sink in. 70 to 90 miles per hour on a suburban neighborhood road. And here's the thing that investigators and online researchers have not been able to get past. There were no skid marks on the road. None. Think about that for a second. If you are driving 90 miles per hour and you want to stop, you brake. You leave marks. You see it on every dashcam video ever, but there were no marks. Which raises one very uncomfortable question. Was Anne actually in control of that car? At 11 a.m., the car slammed into a house in the Mar Vista neighborhood of Los Angeles. a massive fire broke out, swallowing both the car and the home completely. Anne was trapped inside that burning wreck for almost 50 minutes. Firefighters eventually pulled her out using a winch. And here is another detail people cannot explain. 56 firefighters showed up to respond to one car fire and one house fire. People who have studied emergency response say that number is way too high for a fire of that size, almost like they were waiting for something. And then the footage that really got people talking. Video captured Anne being strapped down onto a gurney and covered in a white cloth while she was still alive and conscious. You can see her sitting up, moving. She was aware. Local NBC News initially reported that Anne was in stable condition after the crash. Then, within hours, the story changed completely. Suddenly, she had suffered irreversible brain damage. No detailed public explanation for how her condition changed that fast. August 11th, Anne was declared legally dead. She was taken off life support on August 14th, so her organs could be donated per her wishes. The autopsy said she died from smoke inhalation and thermal injuries. A fractured sternum from blunt force, burns on 12% of her body, a lacerated kidney. And the toxicology report, this is important. LAPD opened a felony DUI investigation, but the final coroner report found no active impairment at the time of the crash. There was an inactive cocaine metabolite, meaning she may have used cocaine days before, not at the time of the crash, and fentanyl at a level consistent with medical or therapeutic use only. So she was not drunk, she was not high, she was sober, and yet she drove 90 miles an hour down a neighborhood street and did not brake. That question has never been officially answered. Now let's talk about why. In 2026, people are demanding a federal investigation into a case that was already closed. Because the internet has put together 5 specific things they want answers on. First, the escape attempt. After the crash, a video went completely viral showing Anne sitting up on a gurney, fighting against what looked like a body bag, trying to get free. If she had already suffered catastrophic brain damage from the crash, how was she awake and alert enough to physically fight against restraints? What was she trying to get away from? I am not telling you what to believe here. I am just telling you what people saw and why it stuck. Second, the stable to brain dead jump. News outlets reported Anne stable. Then, hours later, irreversible brain damage. No public explanation bridges that gap. Medical professionals have not addressed it publicly. Third, the camera that was already rolling. Someone on that small residential street just happened to be filming at the exact moment Anne's car flew past at 90 miles an hour. People online have asked, why was this person already recording? Were they waiting? Fourth, the UCLA connection. Anne was taken to UCLA Medical Center. Conspiracy researchers have flagged UCLA connections to Hollywood elite networks in previous unrelated investigations. There is no official wrongdoing attached to this, but the pattern keeps getting added to. Fifth, LAPD closed the investigation when Anne died. The felony DUI case they opened was effectively shut the moment she passed. No more questions, no more answers. The internet's argument is simple. If local investigators closed it, then federal investigators, the FBI, should be the ones to pick it up. Especially now that the Epstein files have cracked open the Hollywood elite connections nobody wanted to talk about before. Now here's the piece that ties all of this together for the people who have been following it closely. Multiple reports suggest that before her death, Anne Heche was working on a documentary, one that would expose disturbing things happening among Hollywood's most powerful circles, including connections to Jeffrey Epstein's network. Think about what Anne had access to. She spent 3 years in an intimate relationship with Ellen DeGeneres, at the height of Ellen's power and influence. She was inside that world. She knew the people. She went to the parties. She had a front-row seat to how that circle operated. And by 2022, Anne was no longer afraid to talk. She had already gone public with serious accusations in 2021. She was building towards something. The theory that spread online, Anne was getting close to exposing something big. Something about Ellen, something about that world. And 1 week before she died, the crash happened. To be clear and fair, no official report has confirmed this documentary existed. There is no verified proof of foul play. The crash was ruled an accident. That is the official position. But the timing, 1 week, is what people cannot move past. And the internet has a very long memory. Okay, this part is important. because when the Epstein files dropped, the claims about Ellen got out of hand fast, and some of it was flat out false. A review of the DOJ files identified 52 instances of the word cannibal and 6 instances of cannibalism across the documents. Someone took that and built a viral post claiming Ellen was directly connected to Anne's death in the most extreme way imaginable. Let me be direct with you. That claim is not true. Multiple fact-checking outlets went through the files and debunked it. That cannibal claim has no basis in the documents. None. But here is what is documented. Ellen DeGeneres' name does appear in the Epstein files. An email forwarded by elite socialite Peggy Siegel, a known Epstein associate, mentions Ellen dancing at a high-end party. Ellen attended the same elite gatherings as Epstein-connected figures. That is a documented fact. What she knew, what she saw, what conversations happened at those events, that remains completely unknown. And Ellen has not spoken about any of it. The silence is what fuels it. Because when you already have a toxic workplace scandal, reports of 2 dead associates, and a sudden move to another country, even a small paper trail into Epstein's world is going to get people asking questions you might not want to answer. Now let's bring in the Diddy angle, because this is what has given the whole story a second life. You already know about Sean Combs. He is currently in prison on serious charges. His case cracked open something that a lot of people suspected, but could not prove, that Hollywood's most powerful figures were operating inside a protection network. And that network had serious reach. And once people saw how deep the Diddy rabbit hole went, they started looking at other names. And Ellen's name kept coming up. In November 2024, when Ellen and Portia quietly moved to England, users on X were drawing direct comparisons to Diddy trying to flee before his arrest. One user wrote that Ellen should expect to be extradited back home. Another asked simply, is it the Epstein list, the Diddy tapes, or both? The Diddy comparison goes further. Both Ellen and Diddy faced allegations of abuse from people around them. Both have names appearing in Epstein-connected circles. Both have associates who ended up in disturbing situations. The internet sees it as the same pattern, and it is watching closely. And then there is the cluster of deaths connected to Ellen's world that people will not stop bringing up. Anne Heche, August 2022, car crash. Sober, no skid marks, dead within days. Stephen Twitch Boss, December 2022, Ellen's DJ. Her right-hand man on the show for years. He knew everything that happened behind the scenes. He died by suicide just 4 months after Anne.
Devastating news rocking the entertainment world today. Longtime DJ on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Stephen Twitch Boss, has died. He was 40 years old.
Yeah, in a statement, his wife said he was the best husband and father and an inspiration to his fans. They'd actually just celebrated their 9th wedding anniversary.
Kat Perkoff, another car crash linked to Ellen's circle. Car split in half, no skid marks. Leslie Jordan, a medical emergency while driving. Another person connected to Ellen. 4 people, all connected to Ellen DeGeneres, all dead or seriously injured under circumstances that raised questions. In less than 1 year, official rulings on all of them, accidents and suicide. No confirmed foul play in any case. But when you line them all up, the pattern is hard to look away from. And the internet is not looking away, especially not now. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you think this case deserves a proper federal investigation? Or do you think people are connecting dots that were never meant to be connected?